Well, on June 5th, 1977, New York Times Magazine were about to release an article about Nicky Barnes, and they're going to call it Mr. Untouchable. Now, before running the actual article, they told Barnes that they were going to use a mugshot for the cover.
Right.
And if they didn't want him to use the mugshot, they could do a photo shoot.
Correct.
And with that became sort of the worst mistake of his career.
Correct.
So he actually did a whole photo shoot where he's on the cover with his glasses and his fancy Italian suit.
Correct.
And there's a whole photo shoot where I think he's in front of the court building.
Yes, he is.
And this cover was such a big deal that the president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, got infuriated when he actually saw it.
Yes, he did.
Tell me about what happened with the whole Jimmy Carter thing.
Well, when Carter saw the article and saw the picture, when he got back to the White House, he called Griffin Bell right away, the United States Attorney. And he told Griffin Bell to get on it. Griffin Bell, in turn, called Robert Fisk of Southern District of New York. And he put heat on Robert. You got to get this guy. And that's where we started. And then when he got to be locked up, we brought him in and we started the case, the jury and trial and all that.
Okay, when you saw that cover, what'd you think?
Look at this guy, man. He looks good, you know? That looks good.
You did look good on that cover,
Yeah,
you gotta say.
Sure did.
Okay. So at that point, were there a bunch of wiretaps that were happening around his case?
There was one in particular, yes.
Okay. Tell me about that wiretap.
Well, that wiretap was in Harlem River Motors garage, actually. We had a couple of guys that go through the skylight with ropes, almost like commandos, and they set the wires in different places. So we had that going. However, when the case went down, a lot of the wires weren't good. The recordings were, because there was a lot of music, you know, soul music, you know, which is another thing that comes up. So a lot of the stuff wasn't really usable because of that stuff, you know. But that was the main wire, actually, the one that we had in Harlem River Motors garage.
Okay, and what got caught on that actual wire?
One thing only. Get the keys here. One thing only. Get the keys here. Get the keys out of the car. They thought that was kilos, but it actually was the keys to a car.
Okay.
And that was it. That's all we had. Believe it or not.
Okay. And at that point, a sweep happened where everyone got arrested. I guess 20 people got arrested?
No, it happens later on.
Okay, later on.
Yes.
Okay. Now, 20 people get arrested.
Yes.
Including Nicky Barnes.
Yes.
Now, he was charged with a CCE.
Yes, continuing criminal enterprise.
Now, wasn't that a new law
Yes,
during
it
that
was,
time?
out of RICO.
Okay. So that was before RICO?
No, that was part of RICO.
Oh, that was part of RICO?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the RICO law originally was used to bust the mafia.
Correct.
But then it got started using,
Correct.
for other gangs as well.
Correct.
Explain what a RICO is to everyone.
RICO was a law, if you will, that concentrated on organized crime, and it was used as an instrument to get at the source of who they were. And it also provided penalties, severe penalties, for those who got caught and went to court. But it was like really a danger sign for the mob and for other organized crime groups. When they found out RICO was what it was, they kind of backed off a little bit.
Right, because you didn't actually have to be caught doing a crime if they proved the affiliation to a criminal enterprise or a gang
Absolutely.
or a family or whatever.
Absolutely.
Suddenly you're part of this.
That's right. Basically, a conspiracy is you can have a conspiracy with three people. It's a meeting of the minds between 2 or 3 people to commit a fraud, commit a crime. And all you need is one overt act to make the conspiracy. You didn't have to act it out, but if you got one overt act, you win for a conspiracy.
Okay. Now, this whole time you're still undercover.
Yes.
Now, your wife doesn't know what you're doing.
No.
Your kids don't know what you're doing.
No.
How scared are you during this time that Nicky Barnes, who has, tens of millions of dollars, could just have you followed, could have you looked into, and could probably, if they just followed you home, they could kind of figure out who you are?
Yes. I got to tell you, and I'm not blowing smoke up my ass, okay? But since I grew up in Brooklyn, I knew these guys. And in the Army, I was the only non-black on the boxing team. So I ran with blacks. I knew who they were. And I wasn't afraid of them. I knew their background, their story. And I was very fond of them at that time. So when I worked with them, I really felt comfortable with them. And that's what made me go forward with these people. They liked me and I liked them. So basically that was that.
Was there ever a time where you felt like your cover was about to get blown or you'd be in any level of danger?
No, but I tell you what I did was, this is another thing. During that period of time, and I find fault with DEA at that time. It was a very important case, but they weren't giving me the tools to really further my actions, what I had to do undercover. I had to come up with everything. I had to reach into my socks and come up with different things, you know? For example, Richie Montero was the boss in the gas company. I would tell him, can you provide me with those things they put around the sewer so my surveillance guys could look from there? I had another guy, George Rapol, who was a ILA, International Longshoremen Association, hard man, right-hand man. He gave me a card to be a merchant marine, so I had that. What else did I have? I had different things like that made me get over with them, you know? What was the question again? I'm sorry.
No, you answered it. You answered it in terms of getting caught and worried.
Yeah. So, and then another thing was, when I went home, I never went home the same way. Never. And what I did was, I switched cars. I went to the motor pool. That's another thing. I had to fight to get another car. I couldn't get it through the job, you know, through channels. So I said, fuck this. I'll do what I got to do. So I seen George Manny, he was in charge of the garage. He said, George, do me a favor. You got a car that I could use? Because the seized cars were brought down there. Seized cars. And the seized cars eventually would be part of the government. They were seized. So you got a car that I could use? Said, yeah, this one. And I took it out and I used it. And I would park it in a certain place. When I got home, I parked the car in a certain place. I take the other car and I go home.